Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the program 4 exciting, dynamic, diverse, and individual humorous performers, and they are seated on my right, Tony Hawks and Pam Ayres, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Miles Jupp. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp, and she's going to help me with the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Garrick Theatre in the wonderful cathedral town of Lichfield. And we are part of the 30th anniversary of the Lichfield Festival. So let's start the show. Yes! Gyles, we'll start with you, and a nice topical one to begin with, Dr. Johnson. Tell us something about him in this game, starting now.
I'm not at all surprised, Nicholas, that you've chosen Dr. Johnson to begin with today, because this programme is coming from the beautiful city of Lichfield, from which Dr. Johnson hailed as one of this part of the world's 3 greatest sons, the other being David Garrick, after whom this theatre is named, and Sir Hereward Pisspot, the chemist, who ticked the not-wanting publicity box and therefore is less well-known than the former two. Dr. Johnson, of course, is remembered as the great lexicographer, born around the corner from here in the Market Square, a wee lad with ticks and blemishes and the scrofula when he was a child, taken to London to be blessed by Queen Anne herself. These maladies continued throughout his existence, and he became deeply depressed. People are laughing at this, but in his day, it was a tragedy. We know about it, of course, because it was all...
Where we are, Summer's challenge, Tony.
Repetition of course.
Of course, you said of course before.
Oh.
You went for 50 seconds, and this is the heartlessness of this game, isn't it? The unfairness. But you'll get it back again shortly. 10 seconds, Tony, on Dr. What did I say?
You rather maligned me, I felt. You'll get it back again shortly. I can do... You watch, I could probably do 7 out of those 10 seconds.
I didn't see it that way.
No, fair enough.
I was trying to encourage Gyles not to get depressed and play to the audience. Which you can't resist doing. Right, 10 seconds, Tony. Dr. Johnson, starting now.
Dr. Johnson is not to be mixed up with Teddy Johnson, who obviously had the Eurovision hit many years ago. He is a lexicographer of...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, it was Tony Hawks, and he's got 2 at the end of the round. And the unfairness of Just a Minute is Gyles did all the hard work for 50 seconds and gets nothing. Miles, will you take the next subject for us? Oh, a lovely one. French toast. Can you tell us something about French toast in this game, starting now?
French toast is neither French nor particularly toast-like. It is, in fact, enjoyed by the Spanish people or those from the Iberian territories or people of a Latinate nature. You can make French toast by putting bread in a frying pan. You can't make it in a toast...
Tony, challenge.
Repetition of make.
You were making it too much.
Oh.
You can't make it. And you've got it this time with 42 seconds, Tony, on French toast, starting now.
Votre santé, Monsieur Dupont, is an example of a French toast.
They enjoyed Gyles' might be a challenge.
If that's French, I'm a Dutchman. À votre santé, Monsieur Dupont. That is what he meant to say, but I don't know what came out.
Gyles, look, I'll tell you what we'll do. We did enjoy your interruption.
Thank you.
Give you a bonus point for that. But it wasn't a correct challenge, so Tony has a point for being interrupted. You get a bonus point, and there are 36 seconds available. French toast, still with you, Tony, starting now.
Many years ago, people had a lot of old bread lying around. They thought, what can we do with this? Stick it in a frying pan, whack an egg on top, serve it up. They won't know the difference. They're French.
Pam, challenge.
I don't think that's French toast. I think that's an egg on toast.
Pam, I would incline to agree with you. I mean, and your culinary skills are more superior to mine, and I know that's right. So you now have the subject, and you have 22 seconds available. French toast starting now.
For French toast to be the true material, the egg needs to be agitated with a fork, whisk, or similar instrument so that all stringy presences are amalgamated with the rest of the
So, Gyles.
Hesitation.
Yes, there was a definite there, but they enjoyed it. I think they were applauding your actually. So, Gyles, you were complaining about somebody getting in. I mean, you've only got 5 seconds now, so you've got in there with 5 seconds to go on French toast starting now.
The Swiss kiss is a French one through which you yodel, but French toast is something much tastier, which there isn't.
So at the end of that round, Gyles was speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's one behind Tony Hawks, who's in the lead. Then comes Pam and then Miles. And Pam, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is my high visibility jacket. You're not wearing one, but talk about it. That subject in this game starting now.
I never pick up my chainsaw, yank the cord, and hear it roar into life without first donning my fluorescent yellow, sleeveless, hip-length, economically priced, waterproof, high-visibility jacket. Indeed, before I touch a jackhammer or a strim that...
Gyles.
Probably for health and safety reasons, a hesitation was inserted there.
There was a hesitation, yes. What a pity. Could she think of any more adjectives for her jacket? But you've got him with 36 seconds on my high visibility jacket, Gyles, starting now.
In my capacity as the Justin Bieber of the saga generation, I find that being a fashion icon is essential to me, and consequently, I like to be noticed wherever I go, and wear my high visibility jacket at all times. The colour...
Tony challenge.
Well, he's not wearing it now.
Yes, well, he was speaking metaphorically, so if you're going to be literal, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
Thank you.
And say that you have got the subject now, my high visibility jacket, 22 seconds starting now.
I think the government passed a law some time ago, they certainly have in France, that you have to put these jackets on if your car breaks down. And they come and decide whether they are high enough visibility or not, and a panel of judges sit, putting up a little desk, and they give you marks out of 10 to see...
Pam challenge.
I don't think it's true. I think it's a fabrication.
Do. Yes, therefore deviation. Therefore, I quite agree with you, Pam, actually. They probably do arrive to see if you've got enough high visibility in your jacket.
But they wouldn't set up a panel.
I know Tony has a home in France, but he's going too far. So, Pam, correct challenge?
Tony has a home in France, and he talks French like that. This is almost...
I shall get you back after the show, not during.
All right. 4 seconds you got in with Pam on my high visibility jacket, starting now.
It is essential to be seen by cars, caravans, or boxes.
Right. So Pam Ayres was speaking when the whistle went. Gained that extra point. She's just behind Gyles, and 2 behind Tony Hawks is in the lead. And Tony, we'd like you to begin this one. We know you're mad about tennis, but we'd like you to talk on this lovely subject here. Grunting female tennis players. There are 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
I didn't see any grunting female tennis players as I took a stroll round Lichfield.
Gyles challenge.
Well, it's a matter of hearing grunting female tennis players rather than seeing them. You wouldn't know whether they were grunting or not unless you were hearing them rather than seeing them.
I think you're allowed to use all your
listen,
senses at the same time. I can't just shut off my sight when I hear something.
But do you...
Oh, my goodness, I can hear some people. I better not look.
Tony, I'm supporting on this one, so don't worry. You don't need to demonstrate to the audience what you're saying, because, I mean, he's saying that he might hear them, But then he would see them if you hear where the noise came from.
There was no mention of hearing, and I felt you said grunting with such conviction. And
Yes.
I felt you, Nicholas, were wanting this to be about grunting female tennis players, the noise that they make. And a tour of Lichfield, where one is seeing tennis players, smacks to me of somebody who may be interested in tennis for the wrong reasons.
He's only been going for 6 seconds.
If he's only been going for 6 seconds, that gives him 4 to go by your reckoning. So let's hear him.
No.
I'm confident.
He will eventually get round to the fact that on the tennis court, some of them do grunt, which makes watching them play most distressing to me. Anyway, that's a personal point of view. I've expressed it, and I haven't got any round of applause, because obviously I don't all agree. Tony, incorrect challenge, 54 seconds still available. Grunting female tennis players starting now.
In Beacon Park, where all 4 courts were empty and there was a padlock on the gate on a beautiful summer evening. What's going on, Lichfield Borough Council? That's all I know.
Giles.
Repetition of Lichfield.
Yes. You should actually cheer if you mention Lichfield a lot. Giles, you've got grunting, you haven't got them, but you've got the subject of grunting female tennis players, and there are 44 seconds available starting now.
When I was the chairman of the National Playing Fields Association, I had the privilege of being invited to the Royal Box at Wimbledon. This was wasted on me, and I spent most of the matches round the back avoiding Cliff Richard and sitting with Fergie, then Duchess of York, eating scones. But we were excited when we heard the grunting of Venus Williams. We went out there and we heard this extraordinary noise, which had...
Tony challenge.
Did you see it as well?
I'm coming on to that.
So we did enjoy the interruption. I'm sure you haven't got a serious challenge. Have you, by the way?
No,
Right,
I
no. We'll give him a bonus point, because it was such a clever interruption. Giles, you were interrupted. You get a point for that. Keep the subject, and there are 22 seconds available. Grunting female tennis players starting now.
In the golden age of tennis, I can tell you that Anne Hayden-Jones did not grunt when she went to Wimbledon and did so well.
Tony challenge.
Repetition of Wimbledon?
Correct?
Yes, Wimbledon. He was at Wimbledon before. They were there with Fergie, and so Tony, you look tired, Tony.
Yeah, but I'm going to stay to the end.
All right. 15 seconds are available, Tony, on grunting female tennis players starting now.
Any of you who watched Victoria Azarenka at Wimbledon this year would have heard this noise, which was ridiculous. Put her with Sharapova. Fortunately, that didn't happen. It would have been deafening for miles around. People would have been walking out.
Oh, Giles challenge.
There were 3 woods in a row.
I know there were.
Wood. Is that not
aggressive,
repetition?
isn't it? Right. Mm.
Well,
It's true. All right. You've got the subject.
how many seconds to go?
You've got 1 second.
You see, at least Clement Freud is in heaven tonight happy. There's someone here trying to follow his example.
Right, Giles, 1 second on grunting female tennis players starting now.
The music of the grunt!
Miles, wait a minute. Miles, just before the whistle, you challenged.
Well, I thought that wasn't a proper sentence.
Miles, it's lovely to have you on the show for the first time. It maybe wasn't a problem, but the audience enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it, so we give you a bonus point, but nothing else. But
Oh, right, well...
But Giles gets the point for speaking when the whistle went the same time as you challenged. And what is the situation now? Miles has got a point! Oh,
tremendous.
And he's in 4th place, just behind Pam Ayres, who's a few points behind Giles Brandreth, who's equal in the lead with Tony Hawks. And Giles, it's back with you to begin, and the subject is Between the Lines. Tell us something about that subject, Between the Lines, in this game starting now.
I was a member of Parliament until the people spoke, the bastards, and when I was in the House of Commons, I noticed that on the floor of the chamber there are 2
Miles
thin...
challenge.
Repetition of house, or houses.
No.
House of Commons.
He said House of Commons, and then he said House of Parliament.
No, I don't think so.
Well,
Member of Parliament in the House of Commons.
well,
Miles, you've challenged a second time.
yeah, he was mumbling. No one could understand what he was saying. Was it houses? Was it member?
I think Miles is going to get all his points in bonuses. I give him another bonus point. But Giles, you were interrupted. You have 54 seconds between the lines starting now.
There are two thin red lines on the parterre within this particular place. And when speaking in a debate, you are not allowed to address the house from between the lines.
Tony challenge.
Ooh. Is that a repetition of house?
No, because it was houses.
I think it is,
House
but it
of
belongs
Commons.
to Miles. He's a psychic. Miles knew that I was going to repeat it.
So, Miles, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And say that you have 43 seconds on between the lines starting now.
Lines are something that appear on your face as a result of laughter, stress, tears. The older you get, the space between the lines on your face becomes smaller. I have lines on my face as a result of having two young children, one of whom urinated the other day while standing on a climbing frame and refused to come down. I stood underneath him between the lines of the aforementioned liquid as it came tumbling down and finally managed to crawl up onto the aforementioned object.
Miles, you've challenged yourself.
Yes, I could sense a hesitation.
Well, Miles, all I have to say is that was a correct challenge. So you get a point for a correct challenge. And you keep the subject, and you've only got 9 seconds to go. Don't know why you cheer that, but anyway, there we are. 9 seconds between the lines starting now.
Between the Lines was a very popular drama series that appeared on our television screens a few years ago. It starred a wonderful actress by the name of Leslie Vicarage.
So Miles, who hasn't played the game before, very cleverly got in there, buzzing himself most of the time. And also, you were speaking when the whistle went, gained that extra bonus point, and he's moved forward into third place just ahead of Pam Ayres and behind the other two. And Pam, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, Pam, the folly of youth. Tell us something about that, if you can, in this game. Not that it applies anyway, my darling. And, I mean, that you may have had a lot of folly in your youth, but I was trying to refer to the, as I keep being catechized by Tony Hawks, because I convey that he can't keep going, but I'm conveying that you've got youth on your side still. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm trying to get a hole that I thought I dug for myself. I haven't. 60 seconds for Folly of Youth, Pam, starting now.
My husband closely resembles Spartacus, and this is entirely due to the fact that he works out tirelessly 3 times a week with a personal trainer called Grizzly Gary, who exercises his biceps, triceps, abs...
Giles challenge.
This fantasy is becoming really quite difficult to cope with.
I was going to say he had a one-shouldered leopard skin thong.
Good
But
grief.
now I haven't got the chance.
I can accept, frankly, that Pam is Helen of Troy personified, with touches of Cleopatra, but we all know her husband. I mean, this is just, frankly,
You're
dream...
jealous of his physique, Giles. That's all it is.
I'm jealous of his access to your physique, if you want to know.
Listen, we can talk literally, or we can talk metaphorically, or we can talk surrealistically. And according to Pam, this is the way her husband appears to her. So she's entitled to express that.
Can I say, it's clear to... You're right.
And me. He's
Each
a fine
his own.
figure of a man, Giles. It's just jealousy.
Yes, it is. I know, because I've been to the Relate meetings too. He's obviously going through a midlife crisis. She's been told to talk him up. She's doing it publicly. Well done, Pam. I hope the pair of you come through this difficult patch.
Right. Giles, he'll see us afterwards in hospitality. I'd watch out.
But as long as it isn't in his lawyer's office.
And Pam, an incorrect challenge, and you keep the subject. 43 seconds ago, the folly of youth, starting now.
Unlike my husband, who fell off the back of a motorbike having drunk too much Guinness as a young man, I never committed any folly in my youth. Indeed, I was more like a little Einstein, walking through the stones of academia, having philosophical insights and quoting complicated theorems. I never made any rash decisions or bad judgments or...
Tony challenge.
Well, we want to hear you talk about the subject.
I didn't have any.
No, this
Well,
is...
you're finished in this subject, then.
I've been unjustly interrupted.
You have indeed,
I
Pam.
have.
And you've got a point
I
for an
protest.
interruption. Yes, you
You
don't
get a
have to
point,
protest,
Pam, it's
darling.
okay.
I'm with you all the way. I always have been. But and you've got a point for an incorrect challenge,
Thank
and you
you.
keep the subject. 35 seconds. The folly of youth, starting now.
I did, however, fall madly in love with a devastatingly handsome army officer in a grey Crombie overcoat with a brown leather Sam Brown belt and...
Giles challenge.
Repetition of Brown, but also this disloyalty to her husband, I think is really going to set the course of this matrimonial coming together back a long way.
The two Browns are spelt differently, Nicholas. I appeal. A Sam Brown belt's got an E on the end.
I know it has. I'll give you a bonus point for that round of applause, but I have to explain to our listeners and to our audience, this is radio, it is verbal sound, and if it's used the word brown, however it is spelt, it is still brown. So that is the correct challenge. I'm afraid,
Okay, fair
against you.
enough. I give up.
It's just that you're favourite, you want to hear Pam keep going.
Yeah, I mean... you see,
Giles, all I can do is to appeal to your chivalry and say, can she keep going? You obviously don't know what chivalry means.
I didn't quite catch that, Nicholas.
The chivalry means, can you forego your challenge and let Pam carry on?
Yes, Pam carrying on is very much what I have in mind. Of course, we want to hear more from Pam, much more.
Yes,
but
we
not
do.
so much about this rather difficult, painful period in her
Well,
early
no,
life.
I think
That was
this
before
is,
her
this is what
husband
we
came
want
on
to
the
hear.
scene. We know that, so there we are. And he's in the audience and he doesn't mind and he's happy. He just wants it. He wants her to get points and win the show. 24 seconds, Pam. The folly of youth, starting now.
This was a very handsome man. I've already said that.
Tony.
Oh, repetition of handsome.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
he
true.
was too
yes.
handsome, yes. She couldn't get the thought out of her head.
I was dazzled.
So Tony might slip up, you never know. And he's not infallible. So, Tony, you've got him with 20 seconds to go on the folly of youth, starting now.
The folly of youth is clearly an expression made up by older people who are fed up that the young uns are having such a good time. They are bitter, twisted. Look at them.
They are.
Folly.
Miles, you challenged?
Repetition.
What?
They are.
Well listened.
This is great.
So he did say they are twice. You've got in very cleverly with 9 seconds to go. The folly of youth, Miles, starting now.
When my youth ended, I decided to remember it by building a folly in the grounds of my country home. I called it my folly of youth.
So Miles Jupp was then speaking as the whistle went. He's now in equal place, third place, behind Tony Hawkes, who's just a few points ahead. And 2 points ahead of them is Giles Brandreth. And that's the situation as we move into the final round. Well, stick around, we might do another one. Right, Tony, we're back with you to begin. Oh, the subject, lovely one, skinny dipping. Tell us something about skinny dipping starting now.
When I was a young man, one of the follies of my youth was skinny dipping. In Hampstead, they have these ponds. London, this is, if you don't know and you're not around here. And they delegate one...
Miles challenge.
I suppose this is deviation, the fact that you suggested that the people here are not around here. I think they're distinctly around
I think
here.
so, I think. It's a stretch of the imagination if you're not around here. I thought most of this audience had come from around here, haven't you? Yeah. Miles, you got a correct challenge. All right, 47 seconds, Miles. Skinny dipping, starting now.
One of...
Giles.
I imagine he was sort of taking a deep breath before diving into the pool, because there was quite a considerable
There was a
hesitation.
huge pause. There
Well,
was
that's-
almost
that
a
is-
full stop.
that is me breathing
Miles,
in.
I'm going to be generous because it's the first time you played the game. But can I say, I always give the subject and the time, and then as it's the time for you to take a breath, because I then say start now, and you go. Right, can we do that?
So, yeah, I tell you what, if you tell me when to breathe in, and you'll
right.
need to watch closely, Nicholas, because I have big lungs.
Right. You breathe in now. There are 44 seconds to go. Skinny dipping starting now.
Skinny dipping was something that I regret enormously as a young man. The other thing that I wish I hadn't done so much was go down to the ponds at Hampstead Heath and watch a man called Tony...
Giles, you challenge.
I'm afraid there was a hesitation.
There was a hesitation, so you've got it this time. 34 seconds, Giles, on skinny dipping starting now.
Not a good idea, because think of the other people. Oh, when I was last in Lichfield, there they were, 16 acorns and a couple of chipolatas. It was a tragic sight indeed. I had come from the market square where young people, girls aged 12, 13, 14, teetering around in these ludicrous outfits, thongs showing. I kept thinking, who's at home looking after their babies?
Miles challenge.
It would maybe work in a poem, but I think in this context to say that songs were showing is... Well, it makes you sound mental.
Miles, I'm not quite sure. What is your challenge?
Well, he said a thing that isn't real. It doesn't mean anything.
I know, because you can't go skinny dipping in the middle of Lichfield, can you?
Oh, yeah.
There's no
That would have been another excellent challenge. I thought that earlier.
So what is your challenge?
Well, he said songs instead of the word thongs.
I'm not going to give it to you on that, but I could give it to you on what I suggested.
You can give me... If you're minded to give me points, Nicholas...
Kind of the opposite of a lisp, isn't it, really? If you say songs instead of thongs. There's no word for that.
Anyway, Miles, you have the benefit of the doubt, and as you're a new boy, as you might say, and it's skinny dipping, 13 seconds to go, starting now.
Lichfield is absolutely my favourite place in the whole of Britain to go skinny dipping. I simply remove all of my clothes and dive into the first bit of water I can see, regardless of how shallow it is. A puddle would do me perfectly.
So I said that was to be the final round, and it is. Let me give you the final score. So Miles, who started tentatively, finished up actually in third place. He was 1 or 2 points ahead of Pam Ayres, and she was 1 or 2 points behind Tony Hawks, who was 3 points behind Gyles Brandreth. So we say, Gyles, you are our winner this week. Thank you very much indeed. We do hope you've enjoyed the show. It only means to say thank you to these four fine, humorous players of the game. Tony Hawks, Pam Ayres, Miles Jupp and Gyles Brandreth. I think Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, and she's blown her whistle with such delicacy when the 60 seconds elapsed. We thank our producer, Talusha Gilani. We're indebted to the creator of this amazing game, Ian Messiter, and we're very indebted to this lovely audience here at the Garrick Theatre in Lichfield, who've been so warm and friendly and have cheered us on our way and made our job so much more easy. Thank you from the Garrick Theatre in Lichfield. Thank you to our listeners. Tune in again the next time we take to the air and we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world, but also to welcome to the show four exciting, talented, dynamic players of this game. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Tony Hawks, and seated on my left, Graham Norton and Sheila Hancock. Please welcome all four of them. And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on the subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp. She's going to help me keep the score. She's going to blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And Sheila, we'd like you to begin the show with, a lovely subject, Shakespeare's Globe. As a Shakespearean actress, I'm sure you know a lot about it, but tell us something about it in this game, starting now.
Shakespeare's Globe was built, I think, round about 1599, certainly.
Graham Challenge.
Nothing.
You thought I said 9 twice.
I did. I was, yes.
You thought I said 9.
He was sitting next to you and he didn't hear right. So, Sheila, an incorrect challenge.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yes.
I'm not just stupid.
Oh, it's lovely to hear from you, Graham, because it's
And you, Nicholas.
lovely having you on the show, isn't it? Right.
No, it's nice to be here. Thanks.
54 seconds, Sheila, for you to continue on Shakespeare's Globe, starting now.
Up until then, actors had been forced to perform in inns, courtyards, even in a circle of wagons with which they carried their scenery. So it must have been a great relief to have this beautiful, round auditorium, albeit...
Tony Challenge.
Was there a repetition of round in there?
There was. Who talked
Was
about
there?
the round, yes.
around.
I thought it was a circle of wagons.
Ah, it was around.
It's all going
And now
horribly
it's
wrong
round.
for
Oh,
Hawks.
yes.
I feel it slipping
If you
away.
get that, I get by 99. Yeah.
So, Sheila, an incorrect challenge. 37 seconds. Tell us more about Shakespeare's Globe, starting now.
Can this cockpit hold the vasty fields of France? Or may we cram within this wooden O the thing that did affright the people at as... Oh, God.
Paul.
Slight hesitation by William Shakespeare there. Clearly couldn't remember what he was going to write next.
Yeah.
No,
Dragging your
I couldn't
quotations...
think of Agincourt.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Sounded beautiful.
14:15. And...
2:15. No, he was involved. He went over to complain about the noise, isn't that right? Camping nearby, went to complain about the noise.
I know, on the field of Agincourt, right, and 2:15. Right, Paul, the correct challenge, 24 seconds starting now.
It's been rebuilt, and every year I'm part of the Comedy Store Players. We do a show at Shakespeare's Globe, and it's quite an interesting theatre to play because the audience in front of you aren't seated, they're standing up. It feels like you're standing on a scaffold.
Yes, Tony.
Repetition of standing.
The standing, yes. So, Tony, correct challenge. And there are 12 seconds still available. You tell us something about Shakespeare's Globe, starting now.
Sheila won't like me for saying this, but I think Shakespeare's tough enough to endure without standing in the rain. I want a nice seat somewhere, headphones on, listening to music. That...
Paul, challenge.
Well, headphones on, listening to music. We're moving away from Shakespeare's Globe.
That's
aren't
right, we
What do you
have.
think?
But you don't have headphones on when you sit in the theatre.
No,
Certainly not at
I'm
the
saying
Globe.
I do, because I find it dull.
Can't argue with that.
I won't argue with that, but it's so bizarre that...
Why is it bizarre? Do you think everyone likes Shakespeare?
No, I
Well,
can't
if they
think
go
of
to see
anybody...
the plays, presumably.
Yes. I can't think of anybody sitting at Shakespeare's
no,
Globe with
this was the whole
headphones on.
Do you go along and sit there in the head? How much does it cost you a ticket to sit there with the headphones on?
He might be on a date. He's trying to impress someone.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you very much.
What, by blocking out all external sound? Impress the person you're taking on
No,
a
but
date?
my point is, I do think Shakespeare goes on and on and
That's
on.
got nothing to... That's got nothing... That's got nothing
deviation,
to
isn't
do
it?
There'll
with
be letters,
Shakespeare's
there'll be
Globe.
letters.
We're talking about the Globe, not Shakespeare. So it's Shakespeare. I think I give the benefit of the doubt to Paul on this one. If I can redress the balance later, I will do so. And Paul,
I'll
you
talk
have...
to you after the show about Shakespeare.
Paul,
I thought you were bored before.
you've only got half a second to go.
Oh, I mean-
Shakespeare's Globe, starting now.
When it rains...
So Paul then speaking to whistle when gain that extra point and has moved forward in the lead. And Tony Hawks would like you to begin the next round. The subject, red sky at night. Tell us something about it in this game, starting now.
This is a lovely phrase from Liverpool, I believe. Red sky at night, shepherd's delight. Red sky in the morning, Warrington's on fire. And I heard this many years ago when I was in the area, because outside of that particular district, I wouldn't have been able to hear it unless they were shouting very loud indeed. A detail I needn't have gone into, but killed a splendid 7 seconds. Now...
Paul, challenge.
Hesitation.
No, I don't think it was quite a hesitation.
Oh, really?
I will give him the benefit of doubt on this, and that redresses the balance. So you still have the subject, Tony, with another point. 34 seconds, red sky at night, starting now.
Maybe I'll have a go at some political satire here. Red Sky TV at night, News International is bleeding. Now, that's very controversial at the time of this recording, but when it goes out, it probably will have dropped from the news and no one will be interested.
Paul challenge.
Repetition of news.
Yes, you mentioned the news before. So, Paul, you've got a correct challenge. You've got the subject. There are 16 seconds. Red sky at night, starting now.
It's one of these sayings that's passed down through the centuries. Red sky at night, shepherd's delight. Red sky in morning, then is a warning. But, you know, I often think that these archaic words often have a word...
Graham challenge.
Repetition of often.
Yes,
Yeah,
there were
yes.
two offens then.
Was there really?
Yes, it was.
Amazing.
Yes, he repeated them quite close together as well. And Graham, you've got in with 3 seconds to go on Red Sky at Night, starting now.
Red sky at night used to mean when I was a student.
So, Graham Norton was speaking, then as a whistle went, gained that extra point. And Graham, we'd like you to begin the next round. Strange subject here, I hope you know something about it. The meat raffle. 60 seconds, starting now.
Well, I think the United Kingdom has really let itself down. When I was growing up in Ireland, we heard about these meat raffles. Not since the great excesses towards the end of the Roman Empire has such indulgence being used towards meat products. In Ireland, the main prize...
Tony, yeah. Tony.
Yes, repetition of Ireland.
Yeah,
What was there? I didn't know.
Right, 39 seconds, Tony, the meat raffle, starting now.
I do hope I make a mistake and then Graham wins the subject much, because I don't know anything about the meat raffle. It's clearly something from Ireland which didn't come to the
Graham challenge.
Deviation. It's not from Ireland. We don't have meat raffles. No, we looked on in awe, saw you giving away meat. We were shocked by it.
Well, in that case, I owe you 2 apologies. One for interrupting, and one for being descended from the people that treated you so abysmally.
They might have meat raffles in Ireland, but didn't begin in Ireland. I think it was more likely to begin over here. So, Graham, a correct challenge.
Oh, really?
And you have 30 seconds on the meat raffle, starting now.
A bag of Care Pinks would be an adequate prize growing up in... No, I've said growing up already.
Sheila challenge.
He said growing up already.
And there's a... Right, Sheila, you have now the meat raffle and 24 seconds starting now.
Who'll give me £1 for a couple of chops, 5 shillings for a chicken, £1 for... I have no idea what a meat raffle is. How can I
Sheila.
possibly talk for a minute on a meat raffle?
I know, but Paul challenged you.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation.
Well, yes, I should think so.
So let's hear from you, Paul, on the meat raffle, starting now. 17 seconds, by the way.
The meat raffle is very much like the sausage lottery. You have to buy a ticket to be in it to win it. If you go to parts of the north, I'm thinking of Barnsley in Yorkshire, they often have meat. You attend market day and somebody will hold up a huge piece of beef and say, it will only cost you this amount of money to buy.
All right. So Paul was then speaking as the whistle went, seemed to be the only one who knows anything about meat raffles. And you've increased your lead, Paul, and we want you to begin the next round. Oh, mother-in-law jokes. 60 seconds, if you want it, starting now.
Mother-in-law jokes used to be very popular currency with stand-up comedians. One thinks of the marvellous Les Dawson, who made great play over the mother-in-law joke. And his defence of these mother-in-law jokes was the fact that the mother-in-law was a very strong character within society, particularly in 1930s Manchester, where he was growing up. And he said this was very much a figure of authority, and the joke was against this person, not out of sort of hatred, but out of kind of respect, because it was the mother-in-law who kept the family...
Tony challenged.
There were 2 out-ofs quite
Yes,
close together.
yes. Tony, well listened. And you've gone in with 36 seconds to go on mother-in-law jokes, starting now.
What's the ideal weight for a mother-in-law? 2.3 pounds, including the urn. This was a joke I heard when I was only a small lad, and heaven forfend, I would never tell such a joke myself unless under pressure in a situation like this. Very unfair against the poor mother-in-law, who had no real opportunity to defend herself, because more often than not, she didn't have a microphone, whereas the stand-up comedian did, and boy, did he exploit it. Every night out on stage, a mother-in-law joke would be hurled out to the enthusiastic crowd.
So Tony Hawk, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's moved forward, but he's still in second place. Just behind Paul Merton, but ahead of the other two. And Sheila, we'd like you to begin the next round. Thunderstorms. Tell us something about thunderstorms in just a minute, starting now.
I absolutely love thunderstorms. When I was young, my mother was terrified of them. She used to go in the cupboard under the stairs. But I think that was something to do with the blitz. It frightened her, the banging and the flashing. I, however, stand at the window and embrace nature's anger. I let it thrill through my body. I flash at the eyes and I breathe deeply. And I love the smell of the rain when it pours into the earth.
Tony challenge.
Repetition of love.
Oh,
yes,
yes.
you're loving too
Well
much.
played, though, wasn't she?
Yes, she was.
I got carried away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was lovely. It was lovely.
I did.
It was very,
And the
it was
audience
very
had
passionate.
enjoyed it, yes.
Very passionate
And
indeed.
very enjoyable.
Were you still under the stairs at that stage?
No, it was my mum that was under the stairs.
okay.
No, she was at the window.
I was at the
she
window.
said.
I wasn't really following, sorry.
She's not going to be under the stairs sniffing the air, is she? Yeah, she might be, I suppose.
Tony, you've got 30 seconds. Tell us something about thunderstorms, starting now.
I was in France not that long ago with some chums, and there was this tremendous thunderstorm that happened, and out of the sky came the lightning. And we had a discussion about how this was formed, and none of us knew. The next day I went and asked.
Paul Chalmers.
Isn't the subject thunderstorms? We're talking about lightning here.
No,
They're part of it.
Is lightning part of a thunderstorm?
They're all
Yeah.
part of thunderstorms.
Yeah.
Oh, is
You
it?
get the thunder and lightning.
I suppose it is, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's correct.
Yeah, he is, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
he's got 15 seconds more to tell us more about thunderstorms, starting now.
So I quizzed an elderly French fellow the next day. How does this happen? He said nobody really knows. And that shut me up.
Sheila Challenge.
I can't believe that nobody really knows. I think that man who does the science programmes on television, whatever his name is, the dish with the hair. Brian Cox.
You said it.
I'm
I didn't know that. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
absolutely certain if I gave him a call, Brian Cox would know.
Yeah, but the
But,
point is...
darling, he said, this man said, I don't know.
Yes. No, he didn't. He said nobody knows. This man said
this man-
nobody knows.
Yes,
I
but-
can't be responsible for everything this man says as being accurate.
I don't even know he's French because I don't think he's got a French accent, this
No,
man.
no, to be fair to Tony, he said, this man said, nobody knows.
It's absolutely true.
right.
Some man.
Why are we quoting some ignorant bloke who knows nothing?
Yes. That's what I'd like to
In an
know.
accent that's not even his
Actually,
own.
this is dead true. I wrote a book called A Piano in the Pyrenees, and I tell this very story in the book if you don't believe me. So I'm prepared.
Repetition.
Right, you've still got 5 seconds, Tony. Another point, thunderstorms starting now.
There is electricity involved, don't know what it does, but some say it is
Paul
We
Chalmers.
had some say before.
Yes, some say.
He's done it again. Half a second to go.
Thunderstorms, Paul, starting now.
Thunder and lightning!
Paul was speaking as a whistle when again the extra point. Tony got a number in the round. They're very close in the lead together. Tony's one behind Paul, then the other are trailing a little in third place jointly. Tony, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is the paper boy. Will you tell us something about the paper boy in this game starting now?
The paperboy was always somebody I looked up to when I was 6 or 7 years old. Eventually I became one at 13. What a thrill to get given these papers to take round to people's houses and push through their door. Now, a lot of you will be thinking, he's pretty much run out of anything to say on this subject.
And you illustrated it for us. But Sheila, you have 20 seconds on the paper boy starting now.
I used to have a lovely book with cut-out figures, a girl and a boy, and lots of different clothes that with tabs on that you hung on these figures. Figures, I've said figures twice.
Paul challenge, Graham
Said
challenge.
figures 4 times.
So, Paul, you've got 7 seconds on the paper boy starting now.
The paper boy. I was a paper boy when I was 12 years old. I knocked on the door one Christmas looking for some boxes from the people that I'd been delivering newspapers to, and they...
Did you get a Christmas box from them?
I did, yes. I was very nervous the first year because the first time I tried it, I couldn't really explain what I was doing, and this woman looked at me very oddly and didn't know what I was talking about, and I felt really embarrassed. The following year I went round and I was more confident this time, and I said, "Hello, I'm your weekday paper boy, happy Christmas." She said, "Oh, hang on a minute." She came back with her purse. She said, "I'm glad it's you." She said, "We had a right idiot come round last year." She gave me threepence.
It was worth something then, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, it was worth something then, yeah.
You could get a Mars bar at
threepence.
least with it. So, Paul was speaking as whistle when, gained that extra point, creased his lead. And Graham, we're back with you to begin.
Yes.
The subject, ulterior motives. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I am delighted to be speaking on the subject of ulterior motives. I know a lot about them. For instance, if I was to turn to Nicholas and say, "Hey, any chance of being invited to your 50th birthday party?" I would actually be thinking...
Tall challenge.
Do you have a time machine? Because it's quite a few weeks from now, isn't it, Nicholas?
I haven't put them up to this, I can assure you. So, Paul, have you got a challenge when the rules are just a minute?
No, I just felt something
but
had to be said for the
we
record, that's all.
So Graham was interrupted. He gets a point for that. He still has ulterior motives, and 47 seconds starting now.
It is like a thunderstorm in my head right now because I've got so many things to say of ulterior motives. I could go in any sort of direction. I really am spoilt for choice. I think the area I'll start...
I think it was a hesitation.
What, really?
You went like that.
Gotta breathe.
Sheila, it was teetering on a hesitation.
Yeah.
You know, occasionally I give benefit of the doubt.
All right.
If I can redress the balance later, I give it to you. But
No.
Graham, I don't think it was enough for hesitation. So you've still got ulterior motives. 35 seconds starting now.
The relief I feel at this moment is palpable, ladies and gentlemen. A second ago, Sheila Hancock tried to rip this subject from me, but no, I've still got it firmly in my grasp. Ulterior motives. Sit back, friends, because you're going to get a load full on this one. I can't begin...
At some point, he has to talk about the subject.
Yes, so deviation.
Deviation.
Yeah.
As much as I enjoyed the introduction to the subject, was tremendous.
Also, loadful is a lovely new word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Loadful. A loadful of things.
Paul, the correct challenge, another point. Ulterior motives with you. 17 seconds starting now.
Ulterior motives are often quite difficult to discern because by their very nature they can be hidden. For example, if I was to talk to a member of the public here sitting in this magnificent theatre here in London,
Yeah, Sheila, challenge?
Repetition of here.
Oh, yes.
right.
Oh, yes.
Sheila,
It's good, though, because it made the audience go, "Here, here."
I'm glad you agree.
And they're playing along, which is good.
Taking notice of what we're doing, which always helps.
Everybody's dozed off at home.
6 seconds, Sheila. Ulterior motives starting now.
I find ulterior motives a very... Ulterior, no, it's a kind of notebook.
Yeah.
It's a kind of notebook.
Yeah.
I think there was a deviation from the English language for a moment.
It is. It didn't make sense at all, did it? Ulterior motives. Right. Tony, you got him with 3 seconds to go. Ulterior motives starting now.
I have an ulterior motive for being here tonight, and what it is, I am...
So Tony was speaking to whistle when and gained that extra point. He's moved forward. He's still 2 points behind Paul Merton in the lead, and they're both a few points ahead of Sheila Hancock and Graham Norton, who's still equal in third place. And Paul, it's your turn to begin, and the subject is stepping into the spotlight. 60 seconds starting now.
Stepping into the spotlight, the first time you do it, it can be quite a horrendous experience. I remember being at the Comedy Store in 1982. It was round about 2:30 in the morning on a Saturday. I stepped into the spotlight by walking onto the stage, grasping the microphone in my hand and attempting to do the jokes that I'd written down the previous few weeks. It was a nerve-wracking experience. I remember so clearly.
Tony Chan.
Two remembers.
You remembered it earlier on when you said you remembered your first experience. So, Tony, you've gone in with 39 seconds on stepping into the spotlight, starting now.
I was an understudy in a show called Pump Boys and Dinettes that was on not that far from here many years ago. And what amazing tension.
Sheila challenge.
Hesitation?
I call that hesitation, Sheila. And certainly I give you the benefit of the doubt on that one, because I didn't give it to you on the last one. 29 seconds for you, Sheila, to tell us something about stepping into the spotlight, starting now.
One kind of theatrical spotlight is called a follow spot. And I was in Annie at the Victoria Palace, as was my competitor.
Damn, I should have got that.
Yes, you should have done.
Tony, you challenge first.
Yes, well, it was another deviation from
Another
the...
I couldn't think of a word to name
Yeah.
Graham.
That handy thing, Graham, is kind of what my mother thought we might use.
19 seconds, Tony, stepping into the spotlight, starting now.
So many young people today dream of stepping into the spotlight, and the programmes on the television Saturday evening are coaxing them into the world of show business, and they think this will be full of happiness and joy. Little do they know how miserable we all are as we bitch about each other in the...
Paul, challenge.
I'm not remotely miserable.
No.
I think it's deviation. I don't think I would say everybody in show business
No,
is miserable.
we're not miserable.
Some of us are pathetic, but not miserable.
Why are we all here?
Exactly.
Trying to generate
We're
fun and
desperately
humour.
seeking love, admit it. Admit it, Nicholas.
Yeah, but also we want to make them laugh, and we couldn't if we were miserable. We couldn't
Only
make them
because
laugh.
there's not enough love in our lives. Or is it just me?
Yes.
It's just...
Yes. But Paul got in first with 1 second to go. A second to go, Paul, stepping into the spotlight, starting now.
Who put that there?
So it's neck and neck between Paul, Merton and Tony Hawks there. They keep catching each other up and then overtaking each other. Paul's now slightly in the lead ahead of Tony. The others are equal in third place. And Sheila, we're back with you to begin. Matching socks. Matching socks starting now.
A terrible problem in socks. Whenever I do the washing, I always lose one or even three. What happens to them? They disappear into the washing machine. Maybe it is eating them, and at the bottom I would find lots of chewed things on the... What's it? Oh, the socks is on the... No, it isn't, is it? Yes, it is.
Matching
Oh,
socks.
damn.
Could have used the word socks.
I could have
again.
used the word socks, yes.
But who challenged first? Paul. Right, Paul.
It was hesitation.
Yes, it was indeed, right. Matching socks. Tell us something about that, Paul. 37 seconds starting now.
It may be aliens from other planets trying to communicate with us. If they take away our socks, we might think perhaps we should look up to the skies. There may be a magic beam of light.
Sheila challenged.
Quite a lot of maize.
Yes.
Yes.
There may be this, and maybe that.
May. So listen well, Sheila, you've got him with 29 seconds on matching socks starting now.
I actually keep a drawer for the odd socks and hope that one day I'll be able to match them. In fact, I have started a new fashion of wearing odd socks.
Tony challenged.
Repetition of odd.
Yes, indeed. You made
Did I?
on before,
Did
yes.
I?
Yes. So, Tony, you've got him with 18 seconds on matching socks starting now.
I like to take socks and match them with anything that's nearby. It's a habit of mine, and it's because I'm so miserable in show business that I do it. Otherwise, I would be playing tennis or doing something jolly, but no, matching socks is what I do. Holding them up to the light, seeing if...
So, I just heard we're going into the final round. And as we do, I have to tell you, Paul Merton's just in the lead, one ahead of Tony Hawks, and the other two are trailing a little in third and fourth place. The points aren't important because their contributions is what is important. And it's your turn to begin, Tony, and the subject is second best. 60 seconds, if possible, starting now.
When I was at school many years ago now, there was a teacher who was trying to encourage me. Tony, he said, never settle for second best. And my life has been miserable since then. Because I've never made it to the top in show business. And his words are echoing in my ears as I speak, bitterness pouring forth. Venomous... Oh, I can't.
So, Paul challenged first. Paul...
Hesitation.
Hesitation, yes. 33 seconds. Second best with you, Paul, starting now.
Second best, the Academy Awards used to say, and the winner is. But now these days, and actually they used to say that, no, forget it. That was historically inaccurate.
Yes.
So deviation from the tradition of carrying on.
Yeah. Absolutely. I got it completely wrong.
Tony, 27 seconds, second best, starting now.
If you are second best, this means that you are a lot better than all the people who are below you. I'm not going to say anything further.
Graham, you challenge first.
I think this is the only other time I got in as well, was when Tony just stopped. So I'm going with hesitation.
You've gone with the right one.
Yes.
And you've got 17 seconds. You tell us something about second best, starting now.
Second best is something they say to sensitive children instead of saying big fat loser. They didn't win. That's the point. Nobody wants to be second best. It is a thing to be avoided. However, most creatures on planet Earth would like... Oh!
So, as I said, that was to be the last round. Oh, a very, very fair situation. Graham Norton and Sheila Hancock finished equal in third place. But they didn't have as many points as Tony Hawks, who was in second place, but he was only 1 point behind Paul Merton, who is therefore the leader this week and our winner. Congratulations to Paul. We do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute. And it just remains for me to say thank you to these four fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Tony Hawks, Sheila Hancock and Graham Norton. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle delightfully when the 60 seconds elapsed. And we are grateful to our producer, Talusha Gilani, and we're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're very grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre, who cheered us on our way. So from the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team up here, goodbye, and tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Yay! Welcome to Just a Minute. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world. But to welcome also to the programme four very talented, clever exponents of this game who are going to show their dexterity with words as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those four are seated on my left, Rick Wakeman and Josie Lawrence, and seated on my right, Phill Jupitus and Julian Clary. Please welcome all four of them! Beside me sits Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me with the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we begin the show with Julian Clary, and who better? Julian, can you tell us something about my first day at school? 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
My first day at school is ingrained on my memory. It was a very traumatic experience. I was wearing short trousers just above the knee, and I had a knock in that particular area of my anatomy, if you know what I'm saying. So I felt very exposed. Nevertheless, the teacher, Miss Lomax, said, "Sit yourself down, Julian. There's nothing to worry about." 5 minutes later, I felt a terrible urge to visit the bathroom. "Excuse me," I said to the person in charge, who I've already told you about, "I'd like to visit the little boys' room." "No," she said, "sit down and behave." Well...
Oh, Josie challenged.
Sorry, sit twice.
Yes, he told you to sit down more than once. You'll never know whether you made it to the gents or not.
Well, I'll just tell you, because people might be wondering, mightn't they? In Indonesia.
If you get in, you could tell us then, or do you want to wait?
Oh, no, shall I wait? That's a good idea.
Yes, you
Shall I
might be able to
get in?
finish the story.
Yes.
You never know. Listen, Hell, to Josie. She's good, but she's not perfect at the game. But yes. The thing about Just a Minute is no one's perfect at the game.
Exactly.
It'll
Who
trip you
wants
up
to be
sometime,
perfect?
like many, or very, that come in from time to time.
Exactly.
Right. So, Josie, it was a correct challenge, and you have my first day at school and 24 seconds available starting now.
My first day at school was traumatic because I'd had the measles, so all the children...
Julian challenged.
Oh, my story is more interesting.
Oh, Now, what I sometimes do is give bonus points. Julian, that deserved a bonus point. A lovely laugh. But you were interrupted, Josie, so you get a point for being interrupted, and you have 19 seconds still available. My first day at school starting now.
All the children there already knew each other. I felt very lonely, but in the corner there was an obstruction. No, a construction, I think you could call it, called a Wendy.
Julian challenge.
Well, was it a deviation? There was a construction in the corner. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't hang together.
No, it was I think I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, Julian, because she wanted to say obstruction, and she said construction.
No, I said obstruction and I wanted to say construction.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Well, the construction was an obstruction, was it?
Yes.
I'm trying to get Julian in to hear the end of the story, actually. Very generous of you. So, Julian, you've got the benefit of the doubt, and you have 7 seconds on my first day at school, starting now.
3 times I requested visitation rights to the latrine, but they were denied, and in the end, there was a tinkling sound, and I'm sorry, it's true, but I had wet myself on my first day at school, and I was mortified.
Well, did you ever expect to get a round of applause for saying you wet yourself on your first day at school, Julian? Anyway, you kept going to the whistle when you gained an extra point for doing so, and you have taken the lead at the end of that round. And then Josie's got a couple of points. Rick and Phill have yet to score anything. Rick Wakeman, we'd like you to begin the next round. A lovely subject, one of my favourite words, tintinnabulation. Will you tell us something about that? In this game, starting now.
I actually know what tintinnabulation means because I have a CD by a famous Estonian composer called Pert, who did a lot of tintinnabulation. It's not what you think, based on that little Belgian cartoon character who has the little white dog called Snowy and
Josie challenge.
Sorry, my love.
That's all right.
Little.
Yes, little. Well, yeah. Josie, well listened. You're in there with 42 seconds to go on. Tintinnabulation starting now.
The bells, Esmeralda, they made me deaf, you know, because of all the tintinnabulation.
I know this word because I actually suffer from tinnitus. And that is also where that comes from, the tin sound, meaning a ringing, a pealing of bells.
Julian challenged.
Repetition of bells.
Oh, I did, yes. No, I did.
Yes, you did indeed, right. Well, listen, Julian, 21 seconds to go, and you have tintinnabulation starting now.
Put a bell in my hand, and I'm a very happy man. I have talents that no one quite understands. The sound emanates across the...
There was an awful lot of hesitation. I think it was because he had...
I'm surprised after what he said, actually. But it was correct, so within the game. So, Rick, you've got in with 11 seconds to go on. Tintinnabulation starting now.
There was also a famous dog episode with tintinnabulation, with Alsatians playing the bell.
Phil,
Couple of withs.
Oh, yes, that's sharp. That's true, though. Yes, with, right.
You'll
so
never
Phil...
know what the dogs did now.
Well, as long as they didn't wet themselves, I think we're all right.
4 seconds, Phil, on tintinnabulation, starting now.
Campanologists are some people that must enjoy tintinnabulation in its many and varied.
So, end of the first round, I'll let you know that Julian is in the lead at 4 points, then Josie 3, then Phill 2, and Rick 1. And it is Phill Jupitus to begin. Swimming with dolphins, Phill. 60 seconds, starting now.
I once swam with dolphins in Florida in the United States of America. It was arranged for us by our travel agent, and we arrived at our destination to meet the dolphins in question. They were called Sparky and Denise. There were 2 of them. We got into the water and were told that we must not insert anything into the blowhole because the dolphins did not like this. We were allowed to hold the dolphins gently with our hands, and their powerful fins would propel us through the water. As one did this...
Julian challenge.
Repetition of water.
Yes, there was a bit too much water there. You got in with 29 seconds on swimming with dolphins, starting now.
I, too, was invited to swim with dolphins in Perth, Australia. I got to the water's edge, and there they were, the little heads poking out, going, meek, meek, and I...
Rick, you challenge.
A repetition of
It's all one word, Nicholas.
No, I know dolphins speak quite well. And
These were Australians.
These were Australian dolphins, were they? No, I don't believe you, Julian. I'd love to, because we love hearing from you, but no, Rick had a correct challenge. 20 seconds available, Rick, swimming with dolphins, starting now.
I had a traumatic experience swimming with dolphins in Florida. As I got into the water, I realised that I couldn't swim. The dolphins were not at all impressed and slowly pushed me to the bottom of the pool, holding me down, hoping that it was their supper that they could eat later, because they did not like the fish that the keepers gave them.
So Rick Wakeman was then Speaker of the Whistle when, gained that extra point, and he's now in second place with Josie Lawrence behind Julian Clary. And Josie, your turn to begin. The subject is postage stamps. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
What I know about postage stamps, you could fit onto the back of a postage stamp. They're oblong, they have printed designs on the front and gum at the back, serrated edges, and in this country, the Queen's face, always, I believe, pointing to the left. In the olden days, the glue on...
Julian challenge.
Repetition of glue.
No, I said gum first.
Oh, did you say gum?
Gum,
oh,
yes.
Gum and glue.
On the back, yes.
Pardon me for living.
No, the incorrect challenge says postage stamps. 36 seconds, Josie, starting now.
You had to lick it. It wasn't self-adhesive like it is now. Some people enjoyed the taste. I had a friend, Rosemary, who enjoyed
Full challenge.
Enjoyed.
Rosemary enjoyed too much, didn't she? 25 seconds is with you, Phill, on postage stamps, starting now.
One of the rarest postage stamps in the United Kingdom is the penny black. This featured the face of Queen Victoria and is much sought after by stamp collectors, who are also known as forgotten.
You were searching for philatelists, weren't you?
I was always looking for philatelists, Nicholas.
But Julian challenged first, and so it's hesitation. Postage stamps with you, Julian, and there are 13 seconds available, starting now.
Isn't it jolly at Christmas time when you pop down to the post office to get your stamps ready?
Great challenge.
A lot of hesitation.
No, there was one hesitation.
Well, there was one hesitation, and also the post office is probably closed anyway, so you probably couldn't really pop down there. It'd be a long drive. But hesitation.
I don't know what you're talking about, Rick.
Hesitation.
Hesitation. 7 seconds. Postage stamps, starting now.
I used to collect postage stamps when I was at school. I don't know why, because I didn't enjoy licking them and putting them into the book.
So Rick was speaking as the whistle when, gained that extra point for doing so. He's moved into second place behind Julian Clary, who's still our leader. And Julian, it is your turn to begin. And the subject is now Dress Down Friday. Will you tell us something about that? I've never used the expression, so I don't really know what it means, but I can guess. But you talk on the subject, 60 seconds, starting now.
When I was in the Metropolitan Police, Fridays was Dress Down Friday, and we would go casual, slacks and some open heel shoes, and really it made no difference to our arrest rate. Some people thought we were going undercover, but I said, no, it's Dress Down Fridays. Sergeant, I can't tell you what he came as, but a donkey outfit was involved. Into the back of the van we went, down to Waterloo, where all the troublemakers are. We said, oi, you're nicked, me old matey. Who do you think you're talking at, Eeyore? They'd say. I said, don't speak to him like that. That's the man in charge. You want to get a grip, my son. Oh, yes. Dress Down Fridays was something to be remembered. After that, when I joined the army, Dress Down Fridays was also something that occurred. I would just discard the outer layer, and how long is this minute going on for?
Yes, I was very naughty, Julian, because you were going so well and everyone was enjoying it. I let you go on. You actually went for 1 minute, 10 seconds.
Oh, really? Really? Do I get an extra point?
You've certainly increased your lead. Rick, will you begin the next round? What a contrast to this other subject. Lord's Cricket Ground. Not too far from here, but tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
The wonderful thing about the United Kingdom is that it has a lot of wonderful sporting...
Wonderful.
They're not that wonderful either, really.
54 seconds, Phill. Lord's Cricket Ground, starting now.
I visited Lord's Cricket Ground for the very first time last year to attend an exhibition on the sport of baseball, which might seem paradoxical to some, but that said event was taken to
Oh, I wish it was television, they could see your face. Anyway, Josie, you challenge first. Hesitation. Lord's Cricket Ground, Josie, 40 seconds, starting now.
In my mind, the Lord's Cricket Ground is... Oh, bloody hell! I was talking about the gown he was wearing, the Lord, before he played cricket. The Lord's Cricket Gown.
It doesn't make sense. So if it's...
It doesn't make sense no matter how I say it.
So Rick got in first, and he's got 37 seconds on Lord's Cricket Ground, starting now.
I, like somebody else who's sitting up here on this stage, is a Lord's Taverner, and our spiritual home is Lord's Cricket Ground. Unfortunately, I have never had the pleasure of hitting willow to leather on that wonderful pitch, crease, ground, whatever you like.
Well, he had a bit of a meltdown, like me.
And so you got him at 20 seconds on Lord's Cricket Ground.
I'm not optimistic.
Well, try. You start now.
The test match is played at Lord's Cricket Ground as great teams meet each other, and they do... I can't do it!
Julian, you challenge first.
Yes, what should we call it? Hesitation or...
Got a nervous breakdown.
It's a shame, Rick. You might get on better if you didn't move around so much. Our whole table is heaving around. Very, very distracting for me.
I should explain to our listeners that Julian and Phill are sitting at the same table there.
Give him a bit of a massage, Julian.
Well, it'll be another 50 quid.
Julian, you had a correct challenge. You have Lord's Cricket Ground. 13 seconds, starting now.
Personally, I loathe cricket. In my opinion, Lord's Cricket Ground would be better served as an ornamental garden where we could all go and frolic. They could still keep the name Lord's Cricket Ground, but there would no ball games.
Josie challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, well, I'm glad you stopped him after the scurrilous things he was saying. You know, the home of cricket. I mean, there's a sanctified place to us enthusiasts about the sport.
It's only a game, Nicholas.
I know, but there's cricket and there's a game. But cricket is a...
See, it's not easy.
No, it's not easy. No, when you feel passionate about something, doing it is difficult, but I couldn't cope.
It's dangerous, apart from anything, cricket.
Well, no, you have helmets now and boxes.
Sorry? I would do fielding, and that awful concrete ball thing would come flying towards me. It's not the face.
It's not. It's made out of leather.
Well, even so.
So you've got half a second to go, Josie, on Lord's Cricket Ground, starting now.
The Lord...
So Julian's still in a strong lead, and then it's Josie, Lawrence, Rick, Wakeman, and Phill Jupitus in that order. And Phill, we'd like you to begin the next round. Why poems should rhyme? Strange subject. A second or two to think about it. Talk on it, 60 seconds. Starting now.
Why poems should rhyme is a very interesting subject, and one with which I don't entirely agree. Poetry is a marvellous field of endurance.
There are some challenging subjects this week, I must say. So, Josie, you challenge then?
Yes, it was deviation. He said endurance.
Yes, I did.
And you've got a correct challenge, a point. 49 seconds available. Why poems should rhyme, Josie, starting now.
Poems should always rhyme. If they don't rhyme, then they're just stories, surely. Yes, poems should always rhyme, like lavender, rosemary, and...
Great challenge.
This is total rubbish. totally honest about this.
It's somebody's opinion, Rick.
So, was it hesitation, repetition, and deviation?
Well, there was quite a lot of hesitation and deviation.
I think there was a bit of hesitation. Yeah. So, benefit of the doubt to you, Rick. 37 seconds on why poems should rhyme, starting now.
Edward Lear was a great exponent of the limerick, and one of the things why things should rhyme is...
Josie challenge.
Things.
Yeah.
Yeah, things.
Which rhymes with things.
So, Josie, you've got in again on the subject that nobody really wants, and there are 31 seconds starting now.
I suppose it would be a very boring world if, artistically, poems always rhymed. Look at the myriad of poetry we've had over the years. Homer's Iliad, for example. That didn't rhyme, but it was still a magnificent piece. And yet...
Rick challenged.
2 pieces.
Yes, there was a piece before, yeah. So, Rick, you've got in. You tell us something about this weird subject. And 13 seconds available, starting now.
There was a young man from Dundee who was stung on the leg by a wasp. When asked if it hurts, he said, "Not very much. It can do it again if he likes." That is why poems should always rhyme.
Oh, that was a very clever exponent of that subject. Well done, Rick. And you move forward. You're now 1 point behind our leader. You're equal, actually, with Josie Lawrence in second place. But Julian Clary is still out there, 1 point ahead of you. And Josie, we'd like you to begin the next round. It's your turn. And another weird subject, mediocrity. Starting now.
For years, I've been striving towards mediocrity, and I can happily say that there are times when I have achieved it. I don't want to be brilliant, and I don't want to be
and Julian challenged.
I don't want.
I don't want.
Oh, yes, I know.
Yes.
See? Well, it's working then, isn't it?
Julian, 48 seconds. Mediocrity, starting now.
It's better to be last or first, I've always thought, than mediocre. Mediocrity is something we're always told to avoid, yet, strangely, we're drawn to it like a moth to a flame. Perhaps, some might say, it's our natural state. Mediocrity. It's a difficult word to say if you are indeed mediocre.
Josie, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Yeah, we interpret that as hesitation. 26 seconds are still available. Mediocrity is with you, Josie, starting now.
Sometimes mediocrity is a safe place to be. You don't have to answer to anybody. You can just live your life in an average kind of way. And there is nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you good. It doesn't make...
Julian challenge.
It doesn't
make you...
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
You see, I'm striving so hard not to win this show.
Well, you're doing pretty well.
Thank you.
You're doing pretty well to win it.
Oh, I see.
Julian, that was you. Another correct challenge. 13 seconds. Mediocrity starting now.
Mediocrity was, in fact, a poem by E.F. Benson, but it was so dull it was never published. It fully fulfilled its...
Rick challenge.
There was sort of hesitation.
There was a little hesitation, yes, Rick. So you tell us something about mediocrity. 4 seconds. Mediocrity with you, Rick, starting now.
Mediocrity is the word used by A&M Records to describe my first 11 albums.
Well, at the end of that round, Rick Wakeman was speaking as a whistle wind, got that extra point. Julian Clary is still in the lead, but he's 1 ahead of Rick now, 2 ahead of Josie, and a few more ahead of Phill, Jupitus. And Julian, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, a lovely subject. Roses. Tell us something about those beautiful blooms and flowers, starting now.
Oh, I know all about roses. My favourite variety is called iceberg. White they are, and they flower increasingly.
Phill, Jupitus challenge.
That was a hesitation there.
Yes, it was. And there are, quite a lot of seconds, 52 seconds available. Roses with you, Phill. Starting now.
My favourite rose is a wild variety called the dog rose. When I am taking my hound out for a walk, we often see these fine bushes blooming in the summer Essex countryside, and I think to myself about the beauty of these fine flowers. And then...
Julian challenge.
Repetition of fine.
Yes, we talked about the fine before. And it was the correct range. Let's hear a more hybrid roses then from you, Julian. 37 seconds. Roses starting now.
If you climb over the walls of Buckingham Palace, Her Majesty has a magnificent collection. You could pick as many as you want. They're free. She doesn't mind. She never potters about the garden herself, you know. She's got punters.
Rick Challenge.
An awful lot of she's.
There's a lot of she's, I'm afraid. Let two go, but the third one you picked you up. Right, 25 seconds. Roses with you, Rick, starting now.
My favourite rose is a hybrid called Hanky Panky, and it's a sort of red and white stripe. Very pretty, and it was taken from the Rachel rose and one other rose of which name I cannot remember.
Josie Challenge.
I'm sorry to be pedantic, but you said rose twice, and I think the title was Roses.
That is, it is.
Yeah, but if I said it...
Hello, my pretties.
If I said it twice, that means there's two of them.
Trying to be fair within the rules of just a minute, Josie is actually right. So, Josie, you have another point and another correct challenge, and the subject, roses, 12 seconds starting now.
Roses are a flower that have always scared me, probably because of the thorns. If you prick yourselves on these awful little pointy monstrosities, you can sometimes get blood poisoning.
So, we're moving into the final round. Oh, you're lovely, the audience, right. I'll give it to you in ascending order. Phill Jupitus, who did extraordinarily well, is trailing a little in fourth place. And then ahead of him, second in equal place, are Josie Lawrence and Rick Wakeman. About 1 point ahead of them, out in the lead, is Julian Clary. And Rick Wakeman, it's your turn to begin. I've gone very quiet, trying to create a sort of dramatic atmosphere. As we go into the final, it's a lovely subject to finish on. Cuckoo clocks. Tell us something about cuckoo clocks, Rick, starting now.
For 5 years in the 1970s, I lived in Switzerland, and the first thing I discovered was that cuckoo clocks didn't actually come from that country. They came from Austria, which was a big disappointment to me because I discovered that where I lived had actually done nothing.
Julian Chalice.
Repetition of discovered.
Yes, you discovered quite early on.
I went there twice.
In just a minute, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Cuckoo clocks is with you, Julian, and there are 45 seconds available, starting now.
I met a man in a nightclub once who said, "Would you like to come home with me and see my cuckoo clock?" Well, I must have misunderstood him. Into the apartment, and there was this wooden thing on the wall going, "Cuckoo." I said, "Yes, come on then, let's get down to business." But no, it was simply a time-telling machine. Well, that was one of the worst nights of...
Jupitus' challenge.
A little hesitation
There was a little hesitation. Right. Cuckoo clocks is with you, Phill. 21 seconds available, starting now.
The moment the bird pops out of the hole in the front of the clock, I am transfixed and wait for his next appearance. Shall it be 4 or 5 times? Well, that very much depends on what the actual time is that he emerges.
Rick Challenge.
Repetition of time.
Times and time.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yes. Oh, yes.
That's right.
Well said. Well, quite true. 10 seconds, still with you, Phill, having got another point, of course. Cuckoo clocks starting now.
They may be fashioned from pine or perhaps from oak, but whichever wood it is that they are crafted from, these clocks are the pride and joy of those who own them. Up on the wall, chiming the time.
So Phill Jupitus was then speaking as a whistle went, and with that final surge, he's moved forward, but he's still in fourth place. But you did so well last time, Julian, Phill, sorry, right. Equal in second place for Josie Lawrence and Rick Wakeman, but 2 points ahead of them was the man who said it won't work, but it did work this week, Julian Clary. You are our winner. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Phill Jupitus, Julian Clary, Josie Lawrence, and Rick Wakeman. I think Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score and run the stopwatch for me and blown the whistle with such delicacy. We're grateful to our producer, to Lucia Galani. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre in Broadcasting House. And so from our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and this talented team, thank you for listening. Tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute. Yes! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the program 4 exciting, dynamic, diverse, talented, humorous individuals who are going to play Just a Minute. And those 4 are, seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Miles Jupp. And seated on my right, Pam Ayres and Tony Hawks. Please welcome all 4 of them. Seated beside me is Sarah Sharp, and she's going to help me keep a score and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the delightful Garrick Theatre in the heart of that cathedral city of Lichfield. And we have a lovely Lichfield audience, and they come from further afield, because we are part of the 30th anniversary of the Lichfield Festival here in this wonderful theatre. So let's begin the show with Tony Hawks. Tony, Middle England, that is the subject. Tell us something about it in this game, starting now.
Many years ago, when St. Chad came to this area, he thought to himself, well, I've got a very cool name. I'm roughly in the middle of England. What a tremendous place to put a big cathedral, even though hardly anyone lives here. And that's what he did in this magnificent town of...
Oh, Miles' challenge. It's
well,
not a town, is
it's
it?
not a town, it's a city. But what you might be able to say, if I can answer this query for you, Tony, you might be able to say what I'm going to do in this town is put a cathedral in it and make it a city, in which case, points to you.
Well, no, but it's okay. I wasn't going to say that, Miles, so it's okay. It's yours.
Tony looked so crestfallen by my challenge. He's so easily deflated.
No, but the thing is, had I been about to say that, then I would have taken the point. But the fact of the matter is I wasn't going to, so it's a very good challenge by Miles.
It was a correct challenge, so
and
Miles...
I have tremendous admiration for it.
Let's get on with the show.
But I'm going to buzz any minute now.
Tony, we've only just started. Don't have a banter all the time, right? Let's get on with it. Miles, you had a correct challenge. The subject is Middle England. There are 39 seconds available, starting now.
Middle England is how I like to describe the part of Britain that is between the borders of Scotland and England and the borders of England and the sea.
Giles' challenge.
A repetition of borders.
Yes, borders. And you have the subject, Giles, and you have a correct challenge. Of course, a point for that. 30 seconds available. Middle England starting now.
I have had my fill of Middle England. These middle-aged, middle-class, Middle Britain people who spend all their time knowing it all, how depressing it gets. The sort of man...
Tony challenge.
Well, he's describing himself.
Tony, I'll give you a bonus point anyway. But have you a challenge within the rules of Just a Minute?
No, I just wanted to say that.
Well, you get your bonus point. Giles, you get a point for being interrupted. You have Middle England, 19 seconds starting now.
They wear red trousers and have ginger hair growing out of their cheeks. If they knew they were called buggers' grips, they'd shave them off. These tedious people sit around expostulating on the benefit, culture, immigration, and every other issue that disturbs them. I despise and loathe these lowly scum of the earth. I am not like them at all.
Listen, people of Lichfield and further afield, I don't know why you're applauding that. Because some people would think that the Middle Englanders were the salt of the earth, not the scum that he refers to. Giles, I am surprised at you. No wonder you lost that by-election.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You're absolutely right. The one thing I could not stand about being an MP were my constituents.
Anyway, Giles was speaking then when the whistle went. So in this game, whoever does that gets an extra point, and you won't be surprised to hear he's in the lead at the end of the round. And Pam, we'd like you to start the next round. It's Old MacDonald. Tell us something about Old MacDonald in this game starting now.
I had an English teacher called MacDonald, and he was very nasty, and we referred to him as Old MacDonald. He also taught physical education and constantly was wearing navy blue.
Tony challenged.
Was there a slight hesitation?
No, there wasn't.
Oh.
No, there was not.
I was going to buzz in earlier, though, and say that taught him. We had this horrible teacher, and we used to call him Old MacDonald. I bet that got him quaking in his boots.
Yeah.
And you have still 46 seconds to tell us something about Old MacDonald, starting now.
He was given to violence. If people provoked him, he would sweep across the classroom in great menacing strides, grasp the child by the hair or the collar, drag him backwards on helpless, scuffling feet across the lino and out in the cloakroom. Who knows what he did to them, but we lived in a state of constant quaking, quivering terror from Old MacDonald. On the other hand, it could refer to a farmer who had cows and pink-nosed calves and Moran chickens which lay eggs of a perfect deep mahogany brown, and geese which graze the pastures and warn people...
So Pam started with the subject, and as I think you started with the subject and finished with the subject, you should get a bonus point as well. There we are.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
It's amazing what people suffered in the old days at school. They don't realise. That was disgraceful.
It's perfectly true.
I know, I can believe it, because we had people in my school when I was a little boy. We were caned for things we didn't even know what we did.
But you got him back, Pam. You called him Old MacDonald.
Yeah, but now I think he's dead. So that got him back.
Yeah, some of the masters at my school, I was told my one-man comedy show, who were horrors. I mentioned them, but they're all dead now, so it doesn't really matter, does it? Miles, we'd like you to take the next round, begin the next round. Oh, the subject, and maybe this is one of your pet subjects, I don't know. The films of Marilyn Monroe. Are you a fan, admirer, or just in love with her?
You're about to hear.
Oh, you're very sardonic sometimes, aren't you, Miles? Anyway, you have 60 seconds, starting now.
I have never seen any films which feature Marilyn Monroe, acting or otherwise. I have...
Pam challenge.
So I thought it was a bit of a hesitation there.
There was a bitter one, but not enough. I gave you the benefit of the doubt when you were challenged for hesitation, so I'm going to give Miles the benefit of the doubt and say, not quite enough for hesitation, but keep going. Otherwise, you might be.
How long has he got to go? Because he hasn't set himself up very well for a full minute.
I agree with you, Tony. Right. 51 seconds. The films of Marilyn Monroe starting now.
I have not seen any moving images which feature...
Right, Pam challenge.
I think Miles said I have not
That's
seen...
right, he did.
The,
I said I've not seen any of the films.
Oh, sorry, Miles. I'm sorry.
No, on you go. You've got about 49 seconds.
Thank you.
47, actually.
Right.
You did do 2 seconds, Miles. Pam, the films of Marilyn Monroe, 47 seconds, starting now.
I am frequently mistaken for Marilyn Monroe. People say to me, aren't you the woman in the white pleated dress blowing up, they say, as you stand on the ventilation grill coming up from the underground, or as they have it in New York, the subway. I can't think of it.
Tony, you challenged.
I think there was the slightest hesitation there, as she imagined the air coming up.
She made up... 27 seconds available for you, Tony. The films of Marilyn Monroe, starting now.
One of the films I remember watching was Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, which I taken was from a musical at one point, and there was a lovely song in it called Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend. So I went out and bought these lovely jewels for the nearest girl I could find, who happened to be called Sally
Giles challenge.
Repetition of girl.
No, girls.
Girls the
best
first time.
friends.
Apostrophe in S.
No, what's the
Oh. We're in Dr. Johnson's home city. I'm having one of Dr. Johnson's ticks. Oh, dear.
No, it's a thing that we had to be so careful of, but it's true. He did say the plural first.
Yeah, he did. Oh, I know he did.
And now
I know he did.
It's all right,
He said the singular, but with an apostrophe. He didn't say the plural. But I get the gist of what
we don't mind about apostrophes. It's the word. We are in verbal territory here.
I understand that,
girls.
Nicholas.
Right. Tony, incorrect challenge. 13 seconds. The films of Marilyn Monroe, starting now.
I had a 7-year itch, which was a coincidence because the film went by the same title. Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon dressed as women. Do we remember that magnificent movie many years ago? On a boat, I remember.
So, Tony Hawks was then speaking as a whistle wind, gained the extra point. He's now equal with Pam Ayres in the lead, and the other two are equal in second place, 1 point behind. And Gyles, we'd like you to begin the next subject. The Sunday papers. Gyles, 60 seconds starting now.
Well, the Sunday papers, they're not what they were. When I was a child, we used to take the Sunday Express, and I likened myself to the characters in the Gyles cartoons. We also took the news of the world.
Tony Challenge.
I think I've made an error there. He said he used to take and then took. I think.
Yeah, that's right.
But, he tricked me.
That's all right.
And I withdraw.
You're all so sharp, but you trip yourselves up sometimes. 48 seconds, Gyles. Another point to you, and still with the subject, the Sunday papers starting now.
All human life was there, and that is when I first read of the schoolmaster that terrorized poor Pam Ayres during my childhood.
You've been challenged, Gyles.
That was a hesitation.
Yes, you stumbled over a word which sounded like hesitation. The Sunday papers, Miles, and there are 42 seconds available starting now.
The Sunday papers are the ones that are delivered on Sunday.
Pam Challenge.
Sorry, Miles, no, you can say Sunday, can't you?
Yes, if it's on the
Sorry,
card, you can repeat
apologies.
the words on the card. Miles, who hasn't played it very often before,
But
gets
thanks
another
for
point.
clarifying that as well, though, Miles. You know, all the confusion's gone now about.
37 seconds still available, Miles.
37.
The Sunday papers.
Where's he going to go now? He's already told us that. Surely there's nothing left.
Don't undermine it.
You will find out, Tony. 37 seconds, Miles. The Sunday papers starting now. Miles, we have been through this paraphernalia before. Once I say now, you've got to get cracking.
Yes, no, I appreciate this. This
Yes.
is. I used to
but you don't do it, do you?
No, I'm sorry about that.
It doesn't matter. Don't apologise. Gyles got in first.
He's got to draw on that vast wealth of knowledge he's got on the side.
Gyles, you challenge first. Hesitation, so there are 36 seconds. The Sunday papers are starting now.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, what boring moments they are as one awaits the Sunday papers.
Tony Challenge.
Well, they're days, they're not moments.
Oh, no. A day is made of a myriad of moments in my life.
I think you're trying to escape from
I was trying not to repeat the word day, which I felt was probably within the rules. Not to repeat, you see, that's the idea.
But you hadn't yet established they had any connection with Sunday papers.
Oh, yes, I had. The week is just a moment. I'm building up to Sunday.
Gyles, you will argue your way out of anything. You're the most literate, clever man I know. But this one is against you. So, Tony, you have the subject. And I shall explain to our
disappointed
listeners
that I'm not the most literate man you know. I'm very hurt. You told me I was earlier.
You're all literate. You wouldn't be on the show. You wouldn't be able to play the game if you weren't literate. Tony, you have a point for a correct challenge. The Sunday papers, 29 seconds, starting now.
I like a little bit of a lie-in on a Sunday morning, but I'm very irritated by the church bells which ring and wake me up, and so I make my way down to the newsagent where I buy a Sunday paper. Don't always forget the subject.
Miles, your challenge.
That was a hesitation.
There was a hesitation.
That's a Serbian newspaper.
So, Miles, there are 14 seconds available, and you do know that when I say now, you begin. And it's the subject is the Sunday papers, and you start...
I'm still panicking. I have to... Right, go on.
You start now.
The Sunday papers I buy come from a particular shop which is not open on a Sunday. I regret the fact that this store has these operating hours, but what am I supposed to do it? I'm merely one man out of a million people who perhaps don't agree with this particular rule of shopping facilities. Trousers, cake...
I know you're new to the game, but just because I point out to you that you have to start on now, you don't have to go twice as fast as normal. But you did very well.
It was
You kept
very
going
kind
to
of
the
no one to
whistle.
buzz in, despite the fact at one point I went, trousers.
You gained the extra point for doing so, and you've now taken the lead 1 point ahead of all the others.
Wow.
Tony, we're back with you to begin, or no, I think it's the first time on this show that you've started. I don't know, I'll look back and see. Has Tony started? No, he hasn't. Yes, he did. Middle England. Was that in this show? No.
I'm glad you were enthralled by my speech.
Time goes so fast, I don't know what's happening there. Tony, the subject is conspiracy theories. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I am a huge fan of conspiracy theories and believe all of them. I don't think they landed on the moon, and I believe that 9/11 was done by Prince Philip in a bad mood whilst dancing with Elvis, who is still alive. What a magnificent idea to come up with these things and spread them. They write books, which we enjoy greatly, but the photographs that were taken on the lunar landing, are they really viable? Can we believe that these
Giles challenge.
Repetition of believe.
Yes, you said believe before. So, Giles, you listened well. You've gone in with 26 seconds on conspiracy theories, starting now.
Adolf Hitler is not dead. He is alive and well and waiting to have a baby with Katie Price. This is the hot news that no Sunday newspaper is able to bring you. Conspiracy theories are joyous things. They are what tell us that Lichfield, that beautiful city, is actually twinned with a lunar landscape called Parsons.
Miles, you challenged.
There was some hesitation there.
No. Elongation, not hesitation.
Elongation, but you went so long in your elongation, we interpreted as hesitation, Giles.
Okay.
Because I don't think you quite finished the word. Miles, you've got in on conspiracy theories with 3 seconds to go. Starting now.
White flag terrorism is a type of conspiracy theory.
So Miles Jupp once again was speaking as the whistle went, and again that extra point, and he's moved forward. He's 2 ahead of Giles Brandreth. He's 3 or 4 ahead of Tony Hawks and Pam Ayres in that order. And Pam, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, Pam, I'm sure this has been chosen for you. Power dressing. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
I believe in power dressing because it enables me to make other people feel insignificant. My outfit of choice is a sharp black suit with enormously padded shoulders, a tightly fitted skirt, me 7-inch Jimmy Choos on which I totter.
Giles challenge.
I'm so sorry, but I just feel that this just is such a deviation. We heard the other day that actually her favourite outfit is a Dayglow safety harness that she wears. When she isn't wearing that, she's wearing a white pleated skirt that blows up over her face. This is a woman who is completely inconsistent.
That was weeks ago. She could change her mind.
So another point to you, Pam, and 40 seconds available. Power dressing, starting now.
Totter around the boardroom pointing at pie charts and talking in unintelligible jargon which no living human being can understand, and using a small red laser dot to project my opinion. People say to me, how did you become such a financial whiz kid? Well, I say, it's me premium bonds.
Tony, you challenge.
Repetition of say.
Yes, I'm afraid you did say
People say to
before.
me and then I say. Yeah.
Yes.
But it was very good.
Well, listen, it was very good.
It was very good indeed.
Yes,
You did all the lion's share of the work there.
Yeah, I did really.
I probably haven't got that long to go, have I?
You've got 17 seconds.
Oh, that's too much, really.
Power dressing with you, Tony, starting. Dressed as you are today, I don't know anything about it. I should explain to our listeners that Tony's sitting in a dirty old sweatshirt. I don't know.
I think you were wearing that the last time we were in Lichfield. And
Miles, you can't speak either because you've got the... Anyway, 17 seconds available. Power dressing with you, Tony, starting now.
This makes me think of these soap operas like Dynasty or Dallas, where the women wore these shoulder pads, swanned around the place with power on their minds and took...
Pam challenged.
Well, he said minds, which I did not recognise as being part of the English language.
I was a bit of deviation from the English language. All right, Pam, the benefit of the doubt, you have 6 seconds. Power dressing with you, starting now.
My investment advice to you is find an interest-bearing account.
So Pam Ayres was then speaking as the whistle went, and again she got that extra point for doing so. She's moved forward into second place, equal with Gyles Brandreth, 2 points behind Miles, who's in the lead. And Miles, we're back with you to begin. I know you're a cricket enthusiast like me, and so this subject must have been chosen for you. A sticky wicket. Tell us something. A sticky... Right. And you have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
A sticky wicket is a term associated with the finest game that has ever existed. I refer, of course, to cricket. What a wonderful sport it is. In that particular pastime, this term, a sticky wicket, refers to when the pitch is low and perhaps a little damp, and consequently the ball doesn't come onto the bat in the way in which you wish it might. If the ball does come onto...
Oh, Gyles.
Repetition of does after repetition of refer.
Yeah. And there's also balls.
There was...
So, Gyles, you've got the subject of a sticky wicket, and there are 38 seconds available starting now.
When Rupert Murdoch approached me recently and asked me to be the editor of a relaunched News of the World, I sensed that a sticky wicket was coming my way. But I thought this is a challenge that I must rise to. Having been appalling at the game of cricket when I was at school, I scored well, but mainly from the long grass, which I sucked as I lay there, keeping the numbers as the game went on being played.
And Tony challenged.
Was there a repetition of game?
There was a repetition of game. You didn't play the game much when you were young, right at the beginning of your dissertation. And so, Tony, you've got him with 16 seconds on a sticky wicket starting now.
I wouldn't necessarily agree with Miles. Cricket is the best game, but let's...
Miles challenge.
Deviation, I mean, it just is. What else would it be? Tennis?
Miles, we can all have our personal opinions about this, but as we enjoyed your interruption, we'll give you a bonus point for that. But Tony was interrupted, so you get a point, Tony. 12 seconds, a sticky wicket starting now.
I used to play when I was at school, enjoyed it actually, and the wicket, when becomes damp, is tricky when you are facing...
Miles challenge.
Hesitation, resulting in bad grammar.
Miles, you are getting over keen now. You're getting carried away with your success.
I am.
The last time we were here, you were struggling a bit. But now I think you're getting a bit overconfident, if you don't mind me saying.
We're not playing consequences.
No.
Resulting in this, resulting in that, resulting in...
I shouldn't have given them those drugs on the train, Nicholas, I'm sorry.
So, Tony, another incorrect challenge to you, so another point, and 5 seconds only, a sticky wicket starting now.
Imagine the situation when you are in a complicated position when someone approaches you and...
Oh, Miles.
Repetition of when?
Yeah?
Yes, when? Yeah. Someone approaches, when? 2 whens there. Miles, you're getting too good at this game. You've got him with half a second to go. With you on a sticky wicket, starting now.
Who watered the...
So, Miles Jupp, our second-time player of the game. And you've increased your lead. Let me give you the situation, because I think we're moving into the final round, aren't we?
No.
And let me give you the score at that moment. Gyles has moved forward. He's 2 points behind our present leader, Miles Jupp. And he's 1 point ahead of Tony Hawks. And Pam is only 1 or 2 points behind him. And Tony, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is now, why cheating never pays. That's a good subject. 60 seconds starting now.
I gave Nicholas Parsons 150 quid before this show began to give me the benefit of the doubt. Cheating never pays, ladies and gentlemen, because it hasn't happened enough, really, for the money invested in that. Now, there is a moral behind this subject, and I feel it falls upon me to talk for 44 seconds or so on that very thing. Imagine if somebody offers you a huge sum to...
Giles challenge.
A repetition of sum.
Yes, there was a sum of money that you offered me earlier on, and you repeated the word. So, Giles, you have the subject now. You have 30 seconds to go. Why cheating never pays, starting now.
When I was at school, there was a master that had come from a girls' school somewhere in the middle of England.
Tony challenge.
Repetition of school?
When I was at school, there was a master who came from a girls'
schools.
Yes.
Giles, have you ever gone quietly on a challenge?
I think that was the example of a rather artful bit of cheating, actually.
I was trying to illustrate the point, you see.
I know. Tony, correct challenge. 25 seconds still available. Why cheating never pays, starting now.
Why cheating never pays? A question I asked somebody once, and they said, doesn't mean anything. Puts a preposition in there somewhere, Sonny, and slapped me around the head. An anecdote I won't be telling again, but I have done tonight, and I've shared it with you pointlessly.
Pam challenge.
I don't really know what it's got to do with cheating.
No,
I'm
I think
sorry
he's
somebody
deviating.
beat him round the head, but I'm not sure what it has to do with cheating.
I agree with you, Pam. He's cheating around the edge of the subject and he hasn't actually got to the core of it. So we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Say, oh, you've got it. With 7 seconds to go, why cheating never pays, starting now.
I have always walked the straight and narrow and never indulged in cheating or low behaviour of any kind.
Well, as I said a little while ago, this was to be the last round. Indeed it was, and what a fair situation at the end. Only 1 point separates each of them in ascending order. Pam was 1 point behind Tony Hawks. Tony Hawks was 1 point behind Giles Brandreth, and he was 1 point behind Miles Jupp, who's only played the game once before, but he came with a flourish at the beginning, kept a bit more quiet towards the end, but he maintained his lead. So we say, Miles, you are our winner this week. It only remains for me to say thank you to these four fine, humorous players of the game, Tony Hawks, Pam Ayres, Miles Jupp and Giles Brandreth. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so delicately after the 60 seconds have elapsed. We thank our producer, Talusha Gilani. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're grateful to this lovely audience here at the Garrick Theatre in Lichfield, who've cheered us on our way. We hope you've enjoyed yourselves. We hope the listeners have enjoyed themselves. And from me, Nicholas Parsons, I hope I say you'll all tune in again the next time we take to the air and we play Just a Minute!